Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, leader. Welcome back to the Fierce Factor podcast. It's your host, Kaylee here, and I'm recording this episode actually from a really nice adult vacation in beautiful Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Have you been here? It's pretty freaking amazing. I like to call February my birthday month. So my birthday is actually at the end of the month, but what the heck, I'll call this a birthday celebration. I just don't just celebrate on the day. I don't know about you, but I like to celebrate all month long. So this year I decided I would start February in a tropical place that I have never been to. Sometimes I feel like a broken record talking about how much I believe in vacationing. I just love traveling for how it helps me expand my mind. And I really think women like us, we don't have an off switch. And don't get me wrong, if I'm not working, I might as well be dead because I love what I do and I don't do well being bored. But getting out of my routine helps me access the most creative and visionary parts of my brain, the parts that can't come out and play while I'm deep in the trenches of coaching and running my business. And I also respect myself and my clients enough to know that I use my brain a lot and it has to operate at a very high level, I think different level than many people. In order for me to be the best at my game, I have to keep it sharp and clear. And this truly has been a key to my peak performance, operating with speed and agility while allowing enough space and time to make decisions from a visionary mind, and then allowing those decisions to grow fruitful dividends over time. But I haven't always been this way. As a former collegiate athlete, the younger version of myself would have scoffed at the idea that time away from my sport would be a catalyst or let alone a minor contributor to my peak performance as a soccer player. But as I look back at the bigger picture, I can see things from a completely new perspective because playing soccer was only the tip of the iceberg of my athletic career. Because you see, the season started with double days in which we would meet to train for 2.5 grueling hours per day, twice a day. We'd have fitness training, lifting, endurance, agility, film review, and of course, some soccer. And we'd head back to our dorms between sessions to eat. Obviously, this is a very important and vital part of athletic performance. And we'd ice our bodies and then head to the locker room to get fascia release and tight muscles and get taped up for the next session. And this would go on to be a normal preseason schedule, but we'd of course cut down to once daily training when school started. But weekends, we'd head up to our local mountains and we'd do it all in high altitude to make sure our bodies were fully acclimated to thriving under oxygen stress and sort of simulating what kind of optimal fitness we need in the case of overtime or multi-game days. And when I really look back and think about this idea, the actuality that so much of my team's mental and physical preparation to compete occurred off the field, I began to think about how this translates into the sport of our business. And the idea that there are leaders who seem to struggle more, some that live in this sort of constant state of exhaustion, and then others who are running at an extraordinarily high clip. They almost make it look easy. And so I started to think about that. What is that formula? And so I decided, well, let me take a look at evaluating one of the most optimal performers in human history, Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the NFL leader in career quarterback wins, quarterback regular season wins, quarterback playoff wins, and Super Bowl most MVP awards, and the only Super Bowl MVP for 2 different franchises. And he has additional accolades that include the most Pro Bowl selections and the first unanimous NFL MVP. I mean, not too shabby. Tom Brady also ranks first all time in wins, 251 wins, 15 Pro Bowls, Super Bowl MVP awards. He has 5. He leads in completions, 7,753. Oh my gosh. Attempts, 12,050. Passing yards, 89,214. And 649 passing touchdowns. So make no mistake, this athlete is an absolute force to be reckoned with. He is also one of the first people to credit his success to really 3 elements: his preparation, the people he surrounds himself with, and his commitment to improvement, not to perfection. In fact, I personally heard him in several interviews credit his coaches and teammates for being huge keys to his success. And he talks a lot about his struggles. For starters, signing on at Michigan, only to sit for 2 years. He talks about the mindset shifts he had to learn to make those really changes during those years. He would feel frustrated that he only got in the game for 3 snaps, and then he would feel discouraged and talk about how disadvantaged he was by not being given the shot he thought he deserved. But then he talks about this coach. He really credits this coach who was willing to have tough conversations with him about his perspective. And this coach basically told him that if he continued to focus on the negative, he would never get better. Instead, focus on making those 3 snaps the best they could be. Eventually, 3 snaps became 4, 4 became 5, 5 became a starting position, and well, you get it, the rest is history. As a pro athlete, alongside a colleague, his alternative medicine practitioner, Alex Guerrero, Tom Brady developed and published, you may have heard of it, the T12 Peak Performance Method, which incorporates a series of healthy daily habits across 5 pillars: pliability, nutrition, hydration, movement, and mental fitness. Interestingly enough, his method incorporates nothing about tactical playing mechanics. It's all about mindset and off-field preparation. Here's the big takeaway for me, leader. Success isn't about the main event. It's about what you do to prepare to be your best when the main event arrives. My question is, why are we missing this concept entirely as business leaders? Think about the modern day woman. She's overstimulated, overtasked, overworked, and overstretched. She's essentially guided by social constraints that we just are not talking about and addressing. And I don't think it's a coincidence that most of the high growth female founders I work with also happen to have an equally strong support system at home, meaning they have help with just about everything personally. In many cases, partners who also support them at home and or even in the business. So here's the thing. The key to sustainable peak performance isn't about the performance at all. It's about setting up an environment where your business can grow and thrive, where you can grow and thrive. My personal mission of helping to shift our entrepreneurial society forward is to remind you that the goal is to ultimately stay in the game and then let success compound over time. Too many women aren't even getting a shot at optimizing their business. In fact, too many female-owned businesses are just flat out failing because of its owner's mental health issues, exhaustion, physical, and spiritual depletion, not because its leader followed the wrong 10-step financial blueprint. And I've discussed my strong belief in taking solo retreats. I have recorded a handful of episodes from my own retreats away. And the point of this isn't just to quote unquote take a break. It's in fact a ninja strategy for developing yourself, leveling up your mind, and expanding your vision. I personally believe my ability to slow down and recalibrate so I can then move quickly in the right direction is the absolute key to my own business success. Because when I'm going all in. And I mean taking risky investments, plowing through decisions at warp speed, and making big asks because I have spent the time to build the plan and bring my best self into the game of execution. I'm not sort of feeling my way as I go. I have a very clear plan, and I surround myself with the right people who will uplift and support me versus staffing a team of employees, partners, vendors, and coaches who ultimately just drain my business's resources. And one thing I'll share is that I think constantly in terms of reframes. And I want to share a few of those with you here, because when it comes to peak performance, there are really 5 perspective shifts that I believe keeps the most high growth leaders in the game of sustainable business growth. So reframe number 1 is shifting focus from the things that are urgent to things that are important. So for example, if I asked you right now what your single top priority is for your business growth, how would you answer that question? Now take a look at your calendar. How much time have you spent this week working on that specific activity? I recently had a client who was feeling overwhelmed by how much work she had. The hours were adding up in her business, and she was going home exhausted at the end of every single day. At one point, she described herself as feeling like a rag doll being tossed around from one fire drill to another. And this happens so often, we end up living in a reactive versus a proactive state. And this was certainly her. I asked her what one activity she needed to be focused on to change her circumstances. And the undisputed response was, Kaylee, I need to build and train a stronger team. When I talked to her 2 weeks later, she hadn't really gotten around to building and training up a stronger team because of a million other urgencies that arose. And look, I see this way too often. We seem to think that once we eliminate the fire drills, then the big break will come. Well, I have news for you. It won't come until you take the initiative to create that opportunity. If you want the fire drills to stop, you have to stop tending to them. The reframe here is to think important versus urgent. Reframe number 2 is relationships versus projects. Or in other words, shift your focus from projects you need to tackle to relationships you need to cultivate to help you tackle those projects. I seriously cannot emphasize this enough. Become a master curator of support emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Lean into performance pillars from Tom Brady. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. Surround yourself with people who will hold you accountable, who will support you when times are tough, and who will hold space for your priorities instead of creating more urgent matters for you to have to tend to. Think about it. Reframe number 2, relationships versus projects. Moving on to the next one, reframe number 3 is about energy versus income. What lights you up? Who lights you up? When do you feel like your most aligned self? Think about it. When are you the most high vibrational energy? That's when you attract the most aligned clients, the best team members, and really the greatest opportunities. Think about Tom Brady, the Tom Brady who's in a funk because he's only getting 3 snaps versus the Tom Brady who's jazzed and passionate every time he steps foot on that field, all 3 of those snaps. Which Tom Brady is going to get more snaps? If you're chasing income, you will ultimately burn out. If you chase being in energetic alignment, the income will certainly follow. And reframe number 4 is to focus on your mindset versus mechanics. Set the target, but evaluate success by who you're becoming instead of the achievement of that goal. Seriously, stop using your own goals against yourself. I see this so much. Starting to feel bad because you didn't hit that goal or you said you were going to do something and you didn't do it. This is a recipe for disaster. If you aren't hitting your goals, it's likely because you need to tackle reframes number 1 through 3. We often are chasing the wrong carrot, meaning we can run fast at a goal that really isn't what we want in the end. It's not about the goal. It's about your perspective and your ability to manage your mind, body, and soul while you're climbing toward that goal. Take a simple example of running a marathon. Most people don't even attempt to do this, me included. I was good with the half because the thought of the physical exhaustion scares me. But think about your mind during the race, trying to tell you to slow down, walk, take a little break, remind you of every single physical ache and pain. Finishing the actual run has so little to do with your physical preparation and so much to do with your mental preparation before, during training, and in progress of that race. And that's the same for a business. I have made hundreds of hours of videos on how-tos about firing, hiring, performance management, you name it. But until you go through the experience of failing and recovering from your failures, you won't actually have what it takes to build and lead a successful team. This is all about your mind. It's about how you think about your approach, and it's about how you manage your ability to overcome obstacles and failures. And the last one, reframe number 5, is pleasure versus obligation. Leader, when's the last time you asked yourself, does this really bring me joy? Or do you have a routine narrative running through your head that's saying, I have to get this done? I'd like to encourage you to really think about each part of your day and which parts light your soul on fire. This is a great indicator of where you're operating within your zone of genius, and it's a great metric to help you lead energetically. To this point, when we're clear on what's important versus urgent, we have a system that favors pleasure because we aren't overwhelmed by a bunch of tasks that aren't really in our wheelhouse. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Does it bring you joy? Keep a list of all the things during your day that you would say brings you pleasure. How many times have you had an entire day from waking up to going to bed at night like this? Have you ever? Reframing to focus on pleasure will allow you to be a more joyous and productive woman who leads with clarity, purpose, and conviction instead of overstimulated, hurried action that brings out, let's just say, less than your best self. So here's the thing about peak performance. Most people are flat out too busy to live emotionally healthy and spiritually rich and vibrant lives. The next time you're at a conference listening to a speaker talk about their success or teach you the how behind something, ask yourself, would I want to live like they live? Or are you taking advice from somebody who's busier than ever, yet still doesn't have time to enjoy the life they're building? I don't know, some food for thought. Because when I personally think about peak performance, I expect my business to work for me, not the other way around. Okay, leader, that's all for today. If you have enjoyed this episode, if it spoke to you in some way, please take a screenshot and share it on your IG. Your support really helps us bring more visibility to the life-changing work that our team is doing at KLC and to our mission of helping 1,000 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year. And if you haven't had a chance to learn more or to have a call with our team about our new private communication, visibility, and public speaking coaching program called Voice of Impact, hang tight for the outro of this podcast for more details. You definitely want to get in on that. All right, I am off to dinner and I will chat with you same place, same time next Monday morning. Take care. Hang tight, leader. As a high-growth female badass, there's only one thing standing in the way of you showing up as the most confident and dynamic leader you desire to be this year. And that is closing the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. This year, stop dreaming about the future and start making your thought leadership goals a reality. I want to help you make that one empowered decision that will be a life-changing catalyst for you personally and professionally. And that is to become a more dynamic communicator on stage, in leadership, and online, to monetize your expertise, and to develop a revenue stream that doubles as brand visibility rocket fuel. So listen up. Here's what I know. Your ability to deliver a potent message touches every piece of your business, from team building and training to sharing your perspective, whether on stage or through social media. Each day that you're not working on the skill is a day that you're leaving money and, most importantly, your potential for legacy building impact on the table. Introducing our brand spanking new program, Voice of Impact, a completely personalized elite coaching program that expertly guides you to master the art of communication through thought leadership, so you can share your experience and knowledge with an authentic and dynamic presence that transcends. In just 6 weeks, we'll provide the framework, the personalized coaching, and the tools to unlock your powerful presence so you can confidently step onto the center of any stage you want to occupy. Sign up now or schedule a no-pressure discovery call to learn more at klcconsultants.com/VOI. See you there.